So basically, when I started out doing this talk this evening, I couldn't think of a title, so I just decided to slam on love, because that seems to fit all circumstances. How to help the world, love. How to get on with your partner, love. What's spirituality about, love. How to stop wars, love. How to deal with a narcissist, love. How to train a dog, love. What is the creator of the universe, love. You know, it works for every situation, love. My mum was just in the hallway, like, getting stuff out of her bag. And there was a part of me that felt a little embarrassed then speaking in front of her, like, the nature of everything, love. Look what my mum must make of me talking about this subject. Like, we're so ordinary together. If anything, we don't talk about this subject at all. If they talk about anything profound, it's normally politics, which we really talk about very little. But I just try to, and the only bit we talk about in politics is I just try to make it quite clear from my perspective that hard right core politics is not okay from my perspective. England can have a tendency sometimes in the older generations to have quite hard right politics, where they're like, bloody immigrants. It's all the immigrants' fault. This country's falling to bits because of all them immigrants. So that's the only thing that we talk about. Very rarely. And that to me is alternative. Oh, and sometimes we talk about alternative makeup or deodorants or stuff like that. But nothing else. And so we don't talk about this subject. Sometimes we talk about, no, we don't talk about anything about it. So the fact that she's there and she can hear me so blatantly, it's a little bit like it's like talking to your mum and dad about sex, you know, something that you prefer not to do. So to me, so what is love? Like, there's different forms of love. Like, love means so many things. I remember when I was younger watching this film called Waking Life. I'm sure it's not profound to me anymore, but I remember at the time when I was like 22 or 23, and I was just coming out of university, and I just thought it was so profound that they had this whole massive section on love and how love has a different meaning to everyone. And it's not a reality, it's like multiple meanings, and that everyone can interpret love dependent on their biology and their chemicals and the way they're made up differently. You got it. Kiss. Did you get it? What am I dribbling on about? I'm just all dribble. Love. So love can have so many multiple meanings to it, dependent on what you're talking about and dependent on your particular experience with love and how you interpret love. So, to me, non-duality is love. And what is non-duality? It's seeing the creator of this life. So the creator of this life is not a thing, is no thing, and simultaneously all things. And that there isn't an independent doer that's creating life, and that's doing life, that's living its life separately from all other things. And that's a profoundly different way to look at life. And most people walking around this planet really believe that they're responsible for their life and that other people are responsible for their life. And they're constantly in these 5 dynamics. This is from Ramesh and Roger, if you don't know. Blame, guilt, shame and pride, expectation. That's it, that's 5. And that's quite big. Blame and guilt, pride and shame, and expectation. All of those feelings, you can see that most of them are what we'd describe as suffering. Maybe not pride. We'd think, oh yeah, pride is great, but it comes with its best friend, its opposite, shame. And actually, when you really get into it, pride doesn't feel that good. Like feeling better than another person. It can be nice feeling, like there can be pride that has positivity that isn't from suffering. So Ramesh and Roger would say that by believing that you're a doer, so having this dynamic that you're the doer, then there is these side effects, thoughts and ideas and energies that arise in the body, and that leads to suffering. And I don't disagree with that at all. I still think that, unlike Ramesh and Roger, I still think that it's important to have these feelings to an extent. And to me, it's this falling away of this separate energy, and those feelings become reduced. But I still think they're important to an extent. Like to feel guilty if you run over a neighbour's cat. To feel shameful if you do a big poo in the middle of the town square. But the extent to which most humans feel it is on a different level. Like I separate myself on a human level a lot from society. Maybe everybody does actually. There's this big society out there which we all don't engage with. We're all like careful. But I live quite remotely and I just don't engage, I think, in the normal ways that a lot of people do. But when I do, I really begin to realize that a lot of people are really suffering. Like it's very rare that you meet somebody that's happy. They might have moments of happiness, but a lot of the time there's a lot of mental anguish going on. And they might not even be conscious of it. It's just, you can just hear it from the way they're talking. They're moaning about things or bitching about their partner. Let me have an itch for you. Was it itchy there? Is it? better not have fleas, Missy, again. Oh, you not got fleas on me again. And so what are these feelings? So you've got guilt and blame. These are quite obvious. And they're actually the same, guilt and blame. It's just that we've got the internal feeling of guilt and the externalized blame. So you've got this sense that I'm guilty, I've done something wrong, I'm bad. And then you've got the outside, that the outside is guilty and they're bad. But they're kind of the same, because you imagine yourself, you create yourself, and then you also create the external out there. You might not think that. Maybe you're listening to me and you're like, you what? I create the person out there. You having a laugh, are you? Well, no, actually, when you come to look at it, you'll begin to realize that your brain is creating everything that it sees, not only the other people, but also the shape in which you see the sofa, the space, the distance, the colors. Somebody even told me once, I don't know if this is true, but that we see it upside down, and our brain like transforms it the other way around, like our eyes see upside down. Quite funky, eh? So we have this this blame for these others, but the way in which you imagine the others is only in relationship to a you that you imagine to be yourself. And they're actually the same functioning of the brain, the you and the other. There isn't actually you or the other. There is just life happening, just energy happening, appearing as multiple forms. And there's this thing called consciousness, which is experiencing, but consciousness doesn't belong to someone. Most people are in the idea that consciousness belongs to me, and I am a someone in which that belongs to, and they are someone that in which that belongs to. But consciousness is, you could say, a functioning of life, a way in which life experiences itself. And the source of life is no thing appearing as all things. No thing appearing as all things. Dookie 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 dook dook dook. Booby doop boop 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 boop. Yes. So we've got this blame and guilt that are all imagined. It doesn't mean, though, that, like, I always think with these teachings that you need an extent to guilt, but it's just like how out of control that guilt gets. So you need it to an extent to feel like, if you didn't have any feelings arising in the body, then you wouldn't be able to navigate and narrate, you know, like killing someone's dog or cat, or smashing up someone's TV would have no implications for you. So the body needs to have some of that, but who you are doesn't have it. So normally it's this idea that I'm someone that's guilty, and then you have this idea of who you are, you have this image of who you are, and then this idea of a person that's going through time that is guilty, that did things wrong. But what a relief it is to hear that you've never done anything wrong. It's all fictional. You could never have done anything differently. And all of us, by the time you got to 40, I'm 40 this year, I'm currently 39, I'm 40. Somehow, though, bizarrely, Khaleesi once was younger than me, but now she's older than me. So I'm 40, but she's going to be something like 50 this year. So I'm now the younger of the relationship, which has kind of changed our dynamics a little bit. She's trying to be more mature. I'm trying to be more stupid and childlike. We're not sure if we can get on with that, though. You know, she was used to being a child. It's kind of strange to change, you know, to grow older than your mother, isn't it? Isn't it, Easy? Look at her. She's doing her maturity thing at the moment. Isn't it, Khaleesi? It's kind of a bit odd to grow older than your mother. She's like, look, Lisa, this is not a serious conversation. I'm not having this conversation with you now. I'm resting. Yes. Also making sure there's no squirrels coming into the garden. I keep putting it back on. I might be missing my head. You might not even be able to see me. Let's have a look. Yes, you can see me. So this idea that you are guilty. I'm sorry, I've distracted myself. What I was trying to say was, by the time you get to 40 years old, you know, if you're a nice new 20-year-old to this planet, you might not have fucked up too many things yet. By the time you've got to 40, you've made some freaking mistakes. And you, Khaleesi, I mean, you're 50 now, so I don't know how many mistakes you've made. Well, you've killed quite a few animals and then left me to clean it up. Have to pay fines and do all that kind of thing, eh? That's the olden days, though. You put that behind you. Yeah, so by the time you get 40, by the time you get to 80, you're like, oh, fucking hell. I need a new body, man. I've made so many mistakes. But the most amazing thing about non-duality is it's like, you know that little game you used to play where it wipes it clean? Because it was never you that made any mistakes. You're not guilty. You didn't treat your dog badly or your kids badly or were unkind to your parents or lost the house or lost your money or upset this person or made sex videos with your partner or what else is there? Shot your wife's lover or crashed the car into something you shouldn't crash it into or blew up the house. I don't know what mistakes people make. Everyone makes mistakes. Tried to dupe the tax person. Lied to your partner, cheated on your partner. It goes on, the human mistakes. It goes on and Ariston. Left your children. I mean, I'm just brainstorming here. Left your children. One came to me. Yeah. Screwed up your children. Didn't read your children good time stories. Smacked your children on the booty, and now smacking is all bad. You know, endless the mistakes that humans could have made. So, and we think that that's really our fault. And so therefore our mind goes over how you could have done it differently and why you should have done it differently. And through time, a feeling grows in your body called guilt. Our initial guilt is identification. That's what humans feel most guilty about, is that you lost source, you separated from God, and you lost home. And then it goes into life, you know, feeling guilty about this or that, or this or that, or this or that. Or that or this. Maybe you feel like you wasted your life or whatever it is, or you didn't really act out your life, or you never really did anything, or you were scared of your life, whatever it is. And so that's maybe going a bit more into shame. You didn't do enough things. Guilt is more an action that you've done that you feel bad about. And then it becomes a block in your chakras. And then that block encourages thinking, because the thinking wants to get rid of the block, but then that thinking encourages the block. So then you feel like pain in your heart or pain in your neck. And it gets worse as you get older, the more that you invest in it. You keep trying not to be guilty and to be the good person, and then you screw up and you do something, and then the guilt comes back again. And it's the same with the blame. So you tend to get different personality types, but also people oscillate between blaming or feeling guilty. So you've got others then that are always blaming others, and they're innocent. And it's because they're afraid of guilt. They're afraid of feeling like they've done something wrong. So then they're always blaming the other. But it's actually the same, but just external. It just is that you're the victim that has been hurt by all these bad perpetrators that are out there. And nobody's been hurt by a perpetrator. Nobody. no matter what's happened to you, whether you've been raped, whether you've been murdered. I doubt you'd be listening if you've been murdered, but you never know. Ghosts could be listening. Whether you've been mugged or someone's stolen from you, or your partner cheated on you or left you with the kids, you've actually never been you've never been perpetrated. It's not true what your mind says. Like, all of that action is God's will. So Aruna from the Bhagavad Gita, I think it's Aruna, when he has to go to war and fight against his family, he says, God, why are you making me do this? Why are you making me kill my family? And God replies, you're not killing your family, I am killing your family. And that's really beautiful. This to me is love. I know it maybe sounds like to some people, but it's actually love to see that there's never anyone guilty for any actions. It's beyond forgiveness, this. This isn't about you forgiving yourself or forgiving the other. You're seeing past it all. The life is the movement of one energy. So with trees, if a tree fell over, say there was a big storm and a tree fell over and knocked another tree over, or knocked a couple of trees over, the tree wouldn't be laying there thinking, I'm guilty, I fell on my friends and I've killed them and I've hurt them. It wouldn't even see that it's nature, it just would be. But we as humans can see that that just happened. There is nobody that's guilty in that. It's a series of events that happened. And it's the same for the other person. So that person that you're blaming, they couldn't help do what they did. So nobody's guilty. But it's very scary to see that, because we're so indoctrinated to believe that ourself is guilty or the other is guilty, and it's about control. It's actually about society and how we live together in a group and controlling each other. And we're so terrified of not being controlled. Amazing. We're so terrified of not being slaves and being told how to behave. But in this moment, what do you have? Right here, what do you own? What do you have? You're not guilty. You're not your past actions. You're not your future actions. You're just what's happening. Just here, right now. In this, free, wide, expansive, not someone watching or someone experiencing. It's just a happening. The experience and the experiencer aren't separate. The hearing and the heard aren't separate. The looking and the looked at aren't separate. In this moment, there is no divisions. There's no past, there's no future. There's thoughts and images about past and future, but there isn't actually past or future. There is simply this moment, simply what's happening. Hello? I have to always check that my audio is still on. Hello? Yes. I'm not sitting here talking for like 10 hours and then it's off. This is love to me. And what else have we got? We've got shame and we've got pride. So shame is more like what other people. Guilt is feeling guilty for what you've done to someone. Shame is more about how you look to other people. To me, it's more about what other people think about you. And pride is also about what people think about you. And again, these feelings are necessary to me to have them in the body. Like, it's nice to be proud about how nice your house looks or something. But when you identify with it, then it becomes something for you, and then you're better than someone else. So pride could be a lot in competing against others, wanting to be better than others, wanting to be more enlightened than others. Like, I see a lot of pride on Facebook. I personally don't really like Facebook and these types of things. But people like really going at it with, this isn't true non-duality. There is no body. Yeah, I can't suddenly do it now. And then, yes, but da da da, and they fight. I can't quite think of what they say. There's always a reason as to why I or the other person on Facebook is wrong and they're right. And it's not to do with discussion, it's to do with having a position and being better than. And then also the shame is the opposite to that. So when somebody beats you in that argument, you feel shameful. Or when you suddenly are nobody, and you're arguing that you're nobody, and then suddenly you erupt in anger, and then everyone says, ah, you are someone, then there's like real shame about it. And that can even go down to the details of like trying to be a peaceful person because you want to be enlightened. That can become in shame and pride. And then you've got the last one as expectation. And the expectation contains like worry and anxiety. It's the expectation which could be good, like expectation to win the lottery, or it could be bad expectation that you're going to get in trouble by a tax person, or you've done this or that wrong. And that's like all about future thinking. And it's all mind-made from this idea that you are the doer. And what's great about that teaching, what I used to really like about that teaching, was it made me saw bullshit thoughts. Like, if you're, like, there's nothing wrong with like when someone comes in and says, oh, how beautiful your house is, to feel all proud about it. Like, that seems quite balanced to me, and that's nice and sweet. But it's when you are excessively thinking about these things that there is obviously a problem there. Or there's obviously attachment to it. It could also just be a past trauma rising up as well. Like, I still get past traumas rising about different things. And that doesn't necessarily mean separation. It can just be that there's an energy stuck in the body from when you were separated. But the great thing about this teaching is what it does is it shows you, you know, what's not true. On the ultimate level, everything's not true. Everything you think and feel isn't true. But these are very specific, that if you're blaming someone for hours about their action, that there's obviously a past trauma in you, or you're identifying with being someone. And both of them, there can be an exploration. I could say you could explore, but then you've got to question who could explore. So it can be an exploration of the identification or of the feelings in the body, but also be conscious that who would explore that? Who is this person exploring? Who are you? There's an appearance of someone exploring, but that's not you. That's an appearance happening, like the trees blowing in the wind, or the sun shining, or the clouds, or the room, or the sound of my voice. That's not actually someone. And this, to me, that's love. It's so beautiful. Love is this collapse of separation, that you are an independent entity with free will and choice. Who is this person? There is simply life happening for no one, just a happening. It appears, actions appear, and they appear through your particular genes and conditioning. So I behave like Lisa, you behave like Tom, Dick, or Harry, or Elspeth, or Phyllis, or Louise. But that's not you. That's not you. That's not you. That's a happening. Who are you? Who you are is mystery, is endless possibilities, is something that never can be defined. And this is freedom in this life. It's such suffering when you identify with being a person and you identify with your actions. Okay, we go to some questions now. I feel like I never anymore encourage people to call in, and it's also really beautiful when people want to call in. So if you want to call in and speak to me, there are rules. Please make sure you have a headset and a microphone, and it doesn't need to be anything really complicated. Here's the one I use. It's just an Apple one with a little microphone, and make sure you have good internet connection, so then it's not like really echoey for other people. This is sometimes when Osborne uploads those videos that I told you about from that video clips channel, I sometimes listen to some of them, and they're older ones from when I didn't insist that people had like microphones and good internet, and sometimes it really hurt your ears. The Skype connection making all types of sounds. So not just for me, but for other people. Make sure you have that. But if you want to call in, just write, "Can we speak?" I will call you when I'm ready, when I go through the questions. Okay.